Okay, let's
Sounds like a woman.
open the meeting with the pledge of allegiance.
We don't have a tape recorder, I can't find it, but we have the video, I'm gonna get the audio.
Oh, it's in the black star.
Can you get it, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tape recorder is here. Look at that. Boss is here now. You better pay attention.
I'm sorry about that. No, we don't have the payroll anymore.
So, is it okay, I wanna make a motion that because we have three new.
Hang on until we get the recorder.
Sure.
Okay, we're a go.
Okay, so I just wanna change the order in one area. Usually it's a hearing with visitors first, but I wanna, I think we should introduce and have the new members introduce themselves. So I'm making that motion. Anybody second that?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. We'll begin with you, David.
All right, I guess I'll start. I don't know, everybody knows me here, I guess they probably do. David Pedro. I worked for the town for the last 15 years as the road commissioner. I've served on the town select board. I've been a member of the BCRC, the rep of the town at times. Be here to just offer my knowledge on, logistics in town, and I know the lay of the land, I guess. So, take my brain.
Welcome aboard. Jim Simpson.
Hey, everybody, probably you all know who I am, I guess, but I was the zoning administrator here for 4 years, and been helping out with certain things here and there since I've been here. My wife and I been in town for 9 years now, and wanted to get involved in the town, and been lucky enough to meet some good people and attempt to help the town to go forward.
Welcome aboard, Jim. Martin Miller.
Martin Miller, I guess I came in 2001 and sort of slowly but surely have become more and more interested in the town governance. And my first official position was to become a justice of the peace. And then recently also joined the conservation committee and have been coming to the select board meetings and planning board meetings, and I'm just interested in contributing to the good of our town.
Welcome aboard, Murder. Okay, hearing visitors. Michael.
Hi. So, I don't need to stand away. So, Mike Denal. So the reason why I came today, first of all, the last select board meeting, and I'm speaking as a citizen tonight, not a select board member, so this everything I say has nothing to do with, their feelings or opinions. But I will talk about the select board meeting. We had one opening for the planning board, and that night we had 2 people wanting the job, and I felt the 2 people were really great candidates, and it was really going to be a tough decision. And then someone said, let's bring it back to 9, and Dave volunteered to be the 9th. And I think that I applaud this board. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. And I think these 3 members are going to just, like you said, you're going to be able to pick their brains and have a lot of knowledge right there. So I really welcome you guys for the town. The other thing is, Dan putting on a resilience fair, I guess you call that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say me, we've got a whole.
Okay,
group.
yeah,
There's like
so,
8, 10.
and I also want to applaud that. Dan and I, Marta, we've been talking, we've all kind of talked about the, I guess, this discrepancy throughout the town. And I know everybody has their own opinion, and that's good, it's vibrant, but there's been certain things that have been bothering me. And the split of this little great town that we live in is bothering me. And it's been bothering a lot of folks, and I've watched it in the last, I think mostly around COVID and after COVID. That being said, the biggest issue that's bothered me is the littlest issue in town, and that's our sign. We've been going through this sign, and I said I wasn't gonna talk about the sign anymore, I lied. So, it's driving me nuts that we spent thousands of dollars and we still have not put a sign up. Lawyers, arguments, people are not even talking to each other over a stinking sign. And I know everybody had, each board that we went through, 3 boards, well, actually in the committee, everybody did what they thought was right and they did their jobs. Looked at laws, looked at things. That being said, I would like this board, the planning board. Now we applied for a permit for another sign, different sign. It won't be the same as the old sign or the new sign, it's a different sign. We were denied by the AO and we're gonna go to the zoning board, ask for a variance. We're going through that process. What I'm asking for tonight is the future. The future of the town, the future of the buildings. We're looking at possibly maybe looking at other lands in town that we may be able to do things with. Maybe a community center because we have nothing. The school, and I know the school has their own rules. It's very difficult to have things in a school that we want to have because we have to work around their schedule, especially outside. Maybe down the road we will get this. But if we do get it, these, as far as I'm concerned, the red tape that we're going through because of the bylaws, and I apologize to the town, I was one of the board members on the select board that signed the bylaws and the law. You guys wrote it, approached us, and I signed it. You know I didn't read the whole thing. I took, I mean, of course not, It's like Dave telling me that the roads need stuff. Okay, I believe you. Not to put the board down at all. You guys busted your butt doing that. I understand that. And you worked hard, 2 years. But I don't think it's a mistake. I think it's an oversight. I think that your bylaws, municipalities, and there's a state law that I have given to all the boards. I don't have it with me tonight, but I can get that if you want. I think you ought to really look at that law and exempt municipalities from certain things. I don't think our bylaws should hinder the sensibility of putting a sign where people can read it. Where it is marked out now, it's gonna be atrocious. You can't see it. It needs to go up where the old one was. The old one was there as long as I can remember. I don't know who's been in the town the longest, probably one of you guys. I mean, you probably were born here, right? So you guys, that sign's been here forever, in that spot. We have other signs that are closer. The state bylaw, the state ordinance is 25 foot. That makes sense. But in this law, and I don't want to go too much longer, but in this law, it says that it's for making sense, for the betterment of the town, the municipality. If we had to build a building and there was a big rock right here, we had to build the school closer, it would make sense and that exemption would help. And if we go down the road, if we look at churches, we look at civil entities like an Elks Club or a American Legion or anything like that, those in that bylaw or in that state law, they're exempt. I think we should follow the state and do away with our bylaw on these certain things for municipalities. And I just would recommend that. I hope that this board can think about it. You don't have to make motions or anything tonight, but maybe think about it for your next meeting. And maybe we can get this town back together or shake hands and say, hey, look, let's work for the good of this town. And yeah, and the old thing was, I could call my brother an asshole, but nobody outside calls him one. Same thing with this town. I'd like to see this town, nobody outside should be making fun of us saying, they don't even have a stupid sign up there. We look like rednecks. Let's get back to where we were. Get everything where we're shaking hands again, doing good for this town. what I think we should do. All right, I'm good.
Thank you.
So what do we need to do actually?
Whoa.
I'm sorry.
Sheila's up.
As on zoning board, as well as planning board, we had to follow our rules of what we had in our books and stuff. And that means you people as well, anybody. So in the long run, yeah, I'd like the old sign back or something like that. But you can't expect it just to come and sit down on it. Get rid of some of those flowers, open it up so you got a park in the middle of them again, and where that was before. That would be perfect in that, you know, get rid of the real tall ones, you know?
I don't deny, I actually said when I was talking, I don't deny that the boards did their due diligence.
Yeah.
Where the old sign was is a perfect place for it.
What are you gonna
But
do about other people that have businesses in town? I mean, I have.
that's why there's an
We have to have a
exemption
little
for
rinky-dink
municipalities.
sign.
But again, I'm just bringing information, that's up to the board if they wanna change the bylaws or not.
Yeah, we're,
I was there
I don't
for
wanna get
100
into a big
No, I'm
discussion on
not
this
being angry
tonight.
about this,
This
I'm
is
just
something
saying,
we take up.
I think this is
later.
hearing of the
one goes,
visitors
the
anyway.
other goes.
Mike, could you, if you don't know the law off the top of your head, could you email it to me?
I could, yeah, I think it's 494, but I'm not sure. I'm just guessing.
Okay.
494.
494, yeah, it's a whole exemption, there's a big,
I somehow couldn't
list of
find.
We'll talk on it, but I think the visitors have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, this is not something I would expect you guys to do tonight, and, you know, there will be people, you know, a discussion, but I just think that that sign where it was before was a good place for it, where it's gonna go with the size of our sign, and we had to follow, we did hit that part of it. And I remember, you know, we had more than one violation, so it was tough to look over, but this makes sense, bringing a sign that's within the size up a little bit closer, so, and it's gonna be about 10 feet more than the state regulation. So,
Sideways too.
oh yeah,
So
it
you
will
can
be,
see
it'll be
it
going so you
on
can see it both ways,
sides.
yeah, so we pretty much addressed everything we could, and had, you know, we looked at it, we had another, you know, we kept looking at it, and measuring it, we brought mock signs in made out of cardboard, so everybody can look at it. And, I think it's gonna do what we want it to do, it's not, you know, fancy, but it's a nice sign, and I think it'll work out perfect. But I just would like to see us get that exemption, and this is not asking for a variance like this zoning board would do. This is what I'm saying, is I think down the road, not just this sign, but other things that we're gonna be looking at someday might come up again, and look at what it costs us. If we could just look at this and maybe come up with a compromise, it would be a lot less headaches down the road for future generation and future boards. You know, that's all I'm, and the flowers will definitely be coming down or being replanted somewhere else. Someone actually mentioned.
Make more enemies.
No. Someone actually mentioned that maybe the children could plant them in different spots on the land. And maybe leave some for next year, but they are too high for the sign.
Yeah. Okay, any other visitors with another topic? Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely have that as a discussion within the board at probably the next meeting. We'll put it on the agenda. Discussion, overshadowing. Okay.
You gotta approve the minutes first.
Oh, thank you.
Alright, so I hate to leave in the middle of your fine meeting, but I got another thing to do, so.
Mike, if you can find that section for me, because I've looked it for it before and I can't find it.
Okay,
Maybe I'm just, you know.
Yeah, maybe I'll look at it and I'll try to find it.
Thanks. You have my
Thank you.
email?
Next
All right,
time,
guys.
bring me that partridge.
You want a partridge? I'll get you one. Alright, guys, thank you, take care.
Bye, Mike.
Take your time. Yeah, thanks, Pete. Reading and approval of minutes from the last meeting, September 9th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Any issues?
Who seconded it?
I did.
All in favor? Discussion, overshadowing. So John Duper's finally called and I had to be at Jim's house trying to recruit him as a speaker for the conference coming up in town. And John Duper's calls, and so the two of us talked to him for half an hour,
At least,
at least.
at least.
We got the whole lowdown on this, all right? So this, in a nutshell, is how it works. Every time somebody does something on a new parcel, an engineer like John Duper's has to send a certified letter to any neighbors, okay? And so you should have gotten, okay, and that's the time where you bring up issues with the engineer. The way Vermont law works, first come, first served, okay? So if I put my septic system in, and then 10 years later, this neighbor wants to drill a well within the overshadowing area, he can't do it, okay?
Even if he's on his own land.
Right. So, you know, it's like these engineers, John was like frustrated. It's like they just keep coming up with more and more laws coming down from the state, and it's like, you know, you wanna put a septic system in, now the cost has gone from here to here. Everything just gets way more complicated. They gotta make maps, they gotta do these studies, they gotta do this, they gotta do that. First come, first served. Everybody gets a certified letter. John said he's had people come to him 10 years later say, hey, what is this? I'm trying to do something. John, these engineers, they keep track of everything. He'll go back, he'll find that tag when he sent the certified letters out and say, you know what, you got a letter. I don't like it. He don't like it. I don't like the whole thing, but that's the way it works, okay?
I don't think it was a question of whether or not they knew how it worked. Now, forgive me if I'm speaking for you. I just think that it was a matter of, this is, you know what I mean? Like, you know, the whole thing, when I think when we talked about the overshadowing, was not so much what's happening right now, but what can happen in the future for people within the town. And I think that's where we need to focus on, because unfortunately, this is done in the state, like you said, and John Duper's has said, first come, first served, and stuff like that. But I think where we can come in is, like we briefly talked about, is what can we do to try to eliminate some, maybe not eliminate's the good word, but rectify the issue where there's not so many chances for overshadowing to happen. For example, on these narrow lots that are, you know, the Harry Patton lots like we've talked about. So I think that that's something that we need to focus on, because that is all great information. John's right. We all knew that.
I asked John if we could pass a zoning bylaw to keep you from overshadowing on my property. And John didn't know the answer to that. But that would be the easiest thing.
That's what the state wants you to do.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, and I don't know the answer to that. We'd have to contact VCRC and see if that's like possible for us to do, because, you know, that would be a number 2 on the list tonight of a possible zoning bylaw change. And I would be all for that, right? Because these narrow skinny lots, you know, they're still 10, 12, 14 acres. I could have a 20-acre lot and the engineer wants to put my septic system, you know, 100 feet from your boundary line. And it could be 20 acres and that's gonna overshadow on you. I wanna cut it like, no, that's a boundary line. You keep your overshadowing, you know?
I don't know if you could, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know if you could, because this is all state mandated, right? So I don't know if we could create, we can check into that, for sure. But we gotta keep in mind that it's a state law, right? This is a state thing, and we can't make a bylaw that supersedes state law.
Exactly.
Secondly,
I talked to 3 top people in the state, and I told you to call them. They kind of like put it in the gray area and push it back
to the
on
municipality,
forward.
correct. Well, we do have, and Lori will tell you, I think we still have a septic officer.
Maura used to be.
Yeah, more,
And if we had somebody, wouldn't that be their job description to keep track of that kind of?
The state's in full control of all the septic and water.
Well, what I can tell you is I looked into some case law on this, and what I mostly found was the state doesn't care about what's happening on the surface, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? They're all concerned with the water, and water is a public resource. That's all they really care about, whether or not you can have clean water and I can have septic tank and not affect clean water. They're not caring about the property lines. They don't care about that part. So that's where we, I think, have to come in, like Pete's saying, and I think we do have some latitude because the state's not really ruling on property rights. They're really ruling on water rights. And as long as everybody can get their water, that's what they care about.
Look I'm of the mind, I would vote and pass a zoning bylaw to keep neighbors from overshadowing. And then I bring it to the select board and I ask them to approve it. And then take it up with the state. Right, and like, when I was on the select board for 10 years, I was always the one who wanted to just push back. I don't really care what the state law is, I don't care what is. We push back. If you never push back, you don't know where the state's line in the sand is. What does it cost us? 15 minutes? We draw up a bylaw next meeting, we pass it, we go to the select board, advise them to pass it, and then we see where the chips fall.
Yeah, next meeting, one bylaw, 3 or 4 weeks.
Put this sound on
2
the
years,
state level,
remember?
because there is somebody that brought it to the state Supreme Court. There, I was told this by the people in the state. They
Yeah.
said that if something gets done there at the Supreme Court level in Vermont, the state could actually address this. But right now,
Yeah.
you're the only option, the
Right.
board.
They have addressed it, but they just kicked it out saying we don't have jurisdiction to decide this. So that's how they've handled this thus far. I've found 3 cases of this.
I'm not afraid
So
of the
then we
state.
pass a bylaw, and if anybody wants to fight it, and it'll be them, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
Mike and I, other select board members, tried to push against the new tax maps in town.
Hmm.
We pushed and pushed and pushed, and we said, we ain't spending $100,000 to do this. Finally, the state came in and said, we're gonna pull your school funding. Okay, we found the line in the sand, right? But if you don't push, you never know where that line is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that that's a good idea to, if everybody wants to see where that boundary is.
Right.
I don't think it's a bad idea, I'm not opposed to it at all. I think we really need to look into also, again, reiterating what we talked about in previous meetings of where we want the town to go with these habitat lots. Do we want neighborhoods?
There's a lot of skinny lots.
Because they can pop up real quick. Okay, you get somebody come in and buy one of those, how wide is it? Yeah.
300 feet by
So
lot.
300 by 30 acres, if they come in and they're like 2 acres, 2 acres, 2 acres, 2 acres, and they just start putting houses in. Now we got access roads like we talked about, we got all these things that say, oh, well, the town's not gonna have to deal with it. Well, yeah, you are at some point,
Oh, yeah.
okay? So it's gonna happen, I think I'm not saying that that's a solution, that we need to either increase the acreage or which way we need to go with that, but I think we really need to discuss where we're gonna go and where the town, what the direction for the future of the town is gonna be. Because I don't want, and I'll be the first one to say, I don't want neighborhoods, okay? I like the way that everything is sparse, you know what I mean? So, but that's just my opinion, and we can talk about it for.
There's a huge push in Vermont for development, more housing. And water, you know, as you're pointing out, is a really crucial sort of through line for rural communities who are depending on wells. And, you know, we don't have, you know, let's start now with our water, keeping our water clean, because there's no way that we're gonna put in public sewer and public water in a rural community. We can't afford it.
I mean, it's getting pushed that way.
It
Well,
is getting pushed that way,
but
so we have
we
to
just have to look at-
anticipate it
Right.
Yeah,
and
we
safeguard.
just have to look at Pownell. Look what happened in Pownell.
Exactly.
Like, we could just take a peek at that and read through that and see that nightmare that is happening over there. So that's, but I think that that's a discussion that we need to put on. I know we keep putting it on for overshadowing.
I know, and it sort of rolls into the next topic too, about the permit application review. I
Yeah.
think that kind of rolls, those two topics are rolled together,
Yeah.
so,
We really need to talk about,
notice everybody for when we get there.
especially in the village, what the appropriate acreage is for building. Like, we need to decide and really look and review, because right now it's still saying 2 acres, but yet,
Well, they wanted to do 1 acre. They
It
wanted
used to be
they
one,
wanted
it
to
got
reduce-
changed to 2 years ago.
When we were doing the
It used to be
bylaws,
1.
Jim Sullivan sat right there over and over again and mentioned that fact, that he thought that it would be a good idea in a village setting to do 1 acre or less.
Used to always be 1 acre, there's
Yeah,
still
we did.
lots that are less than 1
Everybody
acre
said
that
no.
are grandfathered in.
mine would have
Kept
been.
it at 2.
That's 208 feet by 208
Yeah.
feet.
I mean, that just gets into.
But it
again,
got
that whole
changed,
Community thing. It's
not the
like-
last
I like
time,
the community.
it got changed probably 10, 15 years before the last bylaws. They changed it from 1 to 2 acres in town.
And what was the reason for that?
I can't remember.
I remember.
It might have been that development up there across from Patton's place.
It was the septic situation, water problems that we were having, with houses being built too close, mainly starting in town. Too many contaminated wells. And
But that's still going on, isn't it, David?
it's still going on. And I don't think we want to add more, because this school is in question and has been for the last 50 years on its water supply. So that's why we went to 2 acres.
Yeah. Oh, I don't
To get
like
that.
idea.
Limit overshadowing, right? Try to get,
Personally.
there's a minimum requirement for water being 200 feet or something, I forget what they say, that we put, but there's a distance that the state now requires.
150 feet.
150 feet, yeah, from the septic, okay. Yeah, and, I don't remember all the details, but they were all expanded and, off the wall still is an issue, being acre lots up there, and we didn't collect taxes.
Oh, John said that's a mess up there.
40 years.
It's all uphill too.
Yeah.
And,
Overshadowing everywhere in their 1 acre lots.
they should
How do you
have
get a well?
managed water.
That's the reason why they
He
can't.
said it's a
build lots.
nightmare.
Or they sell the lots, they find out they can't build.
That's a problem.
So,
Right. You definitely, you almost need 2, sometimes 3 lots in order to get your house, your well, and your septic, all the
Yeah.
work,
yeah.
so.
The other thing we gotta keep into consideration is not everybody hires dupers.
Right.
A lot of people hire people that don't file stuff and don't follow up. It is the responsibility of the engineer when the whole project is done to come back and and certify that septic system and the water design and submit it to the state.
That's
Yeah,
right,
you know,
yeah,
it's-
you mentioned that.
Not everybody can afford him.
And you know what the state said?
No, I know.
Exactly, but he made mention that to us, he told us about all them fly-by-night engineers, and I think he used them same exact words, so.
Do you know what the state said? They'll take anything on paper that meets the minimum requirements. So if it looks good on paper, if
Yeah.
it looks good on paper and you stand on the land, it can be a whole different picture. You know, if you're standing in a swamp, it look good on paper. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Okay, that's gonna be, that's gonna be a big discussion next week, following meeting.
Can we
I
look
think
at
we
it?
need to actually, we've been putting this off for 3 meetings. I think we need to really start bullet pointing what we need to have for the next meeting in regards to overshadowing. And one of the things that I would really like to have is, and I said it before, is a list of these 2 acre Harry Patton lots and any lots that may indeed the overshadowing may come into play. So this will give us, I think, some good knowledge of a discussion of, okay, this might work, or this idea might work, to find out how many people are actually affected or could be affected by overshadowing.
But that, and the patent
Yeah.
properties. The thing with if we do a bylaw requiring a certain distance from your line in order to do that, it's gonna take care of a lot of that problem, because if they're stacked or uphill from one another, that second lot may not be able to put a septic system on because it's gonna overshadow the first lot.
And the 1 acre lots are all up in Ethenwald.
So,
That was his development.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of 2-acre whammers, you know what I mean, that he, so I don't know how many are left. I don't know where that's.
Most of his were bigger, the only small one he did was across from the old office. Where those 4 houses went up, they were like 3 acre lots, 2, 3 acre lots, and everybody's already built a house.
there.
Yeah.
That's right across from the old patent big office, which is that big monstrous
Yeah.
house on
The old
Paradise Farm. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess then.
Cause most of them were these spaghetti lots on the back roads where he got,
Yeah.
people wanted acreage and he just bought a 100 acre lot and just went boom, 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 boom. They're narrow and long.
So I think what we need to do is, if we're gonna have more discussion about this overshadowing, again, my opinion, is that we need to come up with a draft of bylaw for this, and that should be the focus for the overshadowing,
Yeah.
to deal with the overshadowing for right now, and then if that fails, then we need to come back and think of another idea in terms of the overshadowing. So, I think that is.
No, that's great. Could we put that on the agenda for the next meeting?
I mean, should we try to work on something?
And the other thing we should put on is what Mike was talking about.
Have that, yeah.
Okay,
So we want a bylaw that just says you can't impinge your septic,
Yeah.
overshadow can't impinge on other people's property.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
And is that affected by distance only, or does the grade of the land also affect
Distance,
it?
they all go by distance.
It's all by
You take a
distance?
circle, you just go.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
the old shit
and-
runs downhill, doesn't,
If you technically narrow lots and you build, keep going like this, everything does
Are
run
you
down.
saying, Jim, they're not looking at the shale or what's underneath?
They don't look at any of that.
The engineer doesn't?
Everything's raised bed now anyway, so
And
they
it's
say
all
they
according-
never
It
fail.
works in.
John said, here's
Mathematics.
Here's a big one. If I've got a 100-year-old house and I have a shallow well on the mountain that gravity feeds my house, you buy a lot above it, your
100%.
overshadowing cannot overshadow my well.
Because
Okay?
it's first come, first served, you're safe.
I'm there.
Yeah, you're safe.
But if a wing nut engineer tries to put that in there, that's where like the person, the neighbor gets that certified letter, he needs to,
Yeah.
he or she needs to like bring us,
If you
like,
didn't-
no, I don't want this.
If you didn't get the letter, I guess you could sue them, if you didn't get the letter, because the law says you gotta send it. I got a certified letter from John Wright, who's a good person, he did the survey for a pretty other person,
Yeah.
I pondered, he's a good guy.
Would you fight with them?
No.
The
Why?
best thing to do is get a.
What's there to
see if
fight
we can
about?
find
I don't want this
towns or
here.
municipalities
Oh, we did.
There's nothing you can do about it.
that
Yes.
I called the state,
would-
up to
You
300
did
people.
tell
They're
them.
probably not,
that you
we'll
didn't
have to
want it.
write it.
I told them
So, VLCT will
that
also
I
help us
don't
with things
approve of
like this.
overshadowing.
So,
That we did not want
I
that.
don't know if you guys.
There's nothing I can do about it, I called the
They said
So
state.
it's not-
VLCT, seems how you're an officer, I'm sorry, Dan.
No, but John said when you bring that to the attention of the engineer, he's gotta work through it some way.
We didn't-
You don't have to just take, well, the state
I called
says
the
this is
state,
okay.
they said as long as, they said John was reputable, and that what he submitted was all approved, as long as he submits the minimum on paper, there's really nothing, that's what he said, the only pushback I would have would be to come to the board and present, what I have, and see what the board does. The board would have to pass rules and
But
regulations.
then what's the whole point of sending you a certified letter if you can't fight with the engineer?
I think it's just a
Right.
notice to make.
That's
it
just
clear.
state, just running you in circles. I
Yeah.
told you to call a few of those people and
Yeah, I
see if
know,
you get
I
their
know.
answers.
Dan,
Yeah, you might end
That's
up
why
in
we
jail.
put it around.
You gotta keep in mind that some of these are gonna be replacement systems. There may be no way of not overshadowing. so many small lots, so.
That's,
They have to design a system, there is no, you can't do it, so. And they're gonna wanna make sure that it's not gonna affect, you know, the groundwater or somebody else's water supply, so.
But if it's
They're
already in
made-
existence, it's a whole different ball of wax than a new development.
It could be, but if we put no overshadowing in there,
On new development, then we probably
okay,
can
you may
language.
want, you may
I
want.
tell you, it's pretty tough to put a well and a septic in a lot that's 250, 300 feet wide. It's pretty tough, because you got the lay of the land, you got a swampy area here, you want to build your house, you don't even try to fit that all in. And everybody's so close to each other, that's creating problems.
it's good, this is gonna be fun, this will be a fun project to work on.
I think part of that, like I was telling Lisa, is that if we're gonna put that in there, and it may behoove us to put in there for new development, go that route first,
Yeah,
is that no septic systems within 100 feet of the boundary line then, of your property line. I mean,
I mean,
other
it
than,
doesn't,
You're
other
killing
than,
city lots.
but is the
but-
leach, is
but
a leach field, is there?
there's no other way to get around that, because you have to be specific, because if you could say no overshadowing all you want, but they can just get the engineer and, you know, they're just like, oh, here we go, but if we, it would make sense, because you can't put the septic 150 feet from the well, right?
Right.
So in the bylaw would have to be, you can, not a new development, put a septic 100 feet within the neighbor's boundary line.
Well, yes, but I don't know for a fact if the septic shield is always 150 feet. I mean, I don't know anything about the engineering on that.
John?
I don't know anything about
Jim,
that.
didn't John say that the overshadowing goes out 500 feet?
Oh, I didn't, I don't remember.
It might be the
It's a big
circle.
I know. it's quite a
So
bit.
just saying keep your septic 100 feet from the line isn't gonna accomplish
No,
anything.
Whatever that
It
boundary
just should
is.
say in your plan and the
It's quite a
engineer
bit,
makes.
the shadowing, the
It's
John.
the shadowing that's the problem.
Right.
I think that's the avenue to approach and see if we could get anywhere with that on new development.
Right. But I think it varies from place to place. It's
Because
just-
if your septic's already in, you were already first
It's not
come,
fair.
first served.
Yeah.
Of course, they have the tendency of always putting the septic downhill, you know, on the lower end. Well,
Because they don't wanna affect their water.
right.
But their neighbors want.
On these long skinny lots, I don't know if it's all flat up there, but I would be looking at going way the heck back, putting a shallow well that would gravity feed my house and then put the septic right in front of the house. My septic system is right off the side of the house, right? And it was a big ugly eyesore, 600 yards of certified sand for a mound system. And you can't do this, you can't do that. When they're all done, I just covered it with loam, planted grass, and put a nice swing set up for the kids, right? I mean, it's all my land anyway for 90 acres, but, you know, and we've never had the system fail. It's 25 years old.
Yeah, we are. This is
But-
more depth than just putting.
The issue with the septic systems is that we're supposed to be following state
State guidelines.
and local regulations. One of those regulations is the tank is supposed to be pumped every 3 years. I can guarantee you that
No.
nobody does it. I do it, but
Yeah, I do mine every 2 years, but.
Well, I could guarantee, ask anybody, nobody pumps them ever, but it's those types of things that help protect the water supply.
Is that in our bylaw, Dave? Pumping?
It's
It's a
not.
state bylaw,
It's a state law.
yeah.
Recommendation,
I mean,
not a law.
I wonder
It's
how
not law,
many
it's a
people know that,
recommendation.
I mean, know that that's.
We do ours every
recommendation.
year, but,
You know, maybe that needs to go in,
I don't know how we would enforce that.
Way in our town plan, we discussed it. I mean, if you read the town plan,
Yes.
we talk about contamination and the problems that we're having with water. And to your point, Dave, talks about septic systems that can be put in for existing situations where a house is already there, but it doesn't meet the standards. They talk about the types of systems that you can put in different places, just like you said. I don't know if anybody's ever put one in, but I guess they're very common near lakes and
I put one in on highway garage.
Yeah, oh, okay.
It's a raised bed.
Next to rivers, I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
it's not a, it's not a mound system,
No,
it's in the ground,
Yeah, yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just got the tunnels, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, peach drinking, a byproduct of it.
Damn
Well,
right.
there's a,
I sure am. That's why I don't drink the water.
There's a-
I use it to take a shower.
there's like a leaching
Yeah, like
area.
You're directly downhill from it.
I definitely just,
There's a shield or a leaching barrier.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have installed.
it's right in that house that burned down.
They probably don't have a septic.
Lori, do you know of any other kind of regulations the towns put in place for septic designs and stuff, or the septic officer? No?
Mora, when, before the state really took over, Mora did the approval for all of the septic systems. And then when the state took over, she really doesn't get involved in it at all. And, you know, now it's more or less, I don't know, a title. She hasn't worked in years.
I think this when the state took over, it's like everything was under them now. I think we should move on to, I don't know why we had this on there, somebody could remind me.
I wanted to ask about this form.
Okay,
So this goes back when we did the 3-lot subdivision, and this is the form that we got, but I photocopied it to get new people. And if you remember, accidentally we got all the plans for buildings and the potential septic that was going on in that land, which we were told to disregard by our AO and only consider the subdivision. But my question, first of all, was on this second page of the sheet, and this is the sheet everyone gets, including the 3 lots. And on number 5, under instruction for filing for a zoning permit, see that? Do we see that on page 2? Question 5, it says a plot plan must be drawn, you know, showing boundary lines, all existing and proposed buildings, you know, the septic. This is proposed things as well, and that was on the things that we got that was given to the Riggies, but it wasn't given to us to consider. But I really feel like something's taken out of our hands if we're not allowed to look at that as we subdivide, because the next logical step is development. And then does that, and also, does that just go to the AO, but also, when I look back in the bylaws, I feel like we should have had a say on at least the right of way. So 7.2.2, in the zoning bylaws, the 7.2.1 is the AO, but 7.2.2 talks about the planning commission, making sure that the right of way is in place. And that was not asked of us. And I asked our AO about the right of way, and she told us, taken care of, don't worry about it. But I'm kind of worried about it. And maybe that's.
I was adamant that we should never vote for that during that.
It just feels like when the building does begin up there, is it just going to be up to the AO to say, okay, house now, without any consideration
Yeah,
of
we
roads or?
didn't do a review.
I was wondering if it does need a site plan review.
The bylaws require a site plan from a subdivision by the AO and zoning and planning commission, period.
Yep.
David's right.
Yeah.
Should have been done. That's a major problem,
Right.
because
Especially if a landowner next to it files an complaint. He's got to.
well, not only that, is we have an opportunity now to look at we would convene at that location to make sure that certain things
Right.
that we were talking about
Yeah.
are done.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a subdivision.
Right.
I'm paying that for granted, I thought about
so you're thinking that should be put on this sheet?
Well, I feel like if this is the sheet that the people who did the 3-lot subdivision, they should have had to answer question 5, or if they're not, they should be given a different form for starters, because they didn't answer question 5. And it's there, so if this is, you're giving this to someone, I don't understand why it's not getting filled out. So either A, new form needs to be done to just subdividing land, or B, maybe we're really supposed to have this information, I'm not sure.
Or, let me ask Jim, because he was the AO, should the AO have caught this?
It's the process. Laurie would give the application to the people.
Yeah.
The people would fill out the application. It would immediately be sent to the planning commission. Period.
for,
Not even to the AO yet.
Okay,
But it went to her first.
Well, she couldn't do the 3.
I'm sorry,
so-
they would go to both, probably.
She couldn't do the 3, so it came to us.
Laurie, you know?
I've never given a permit to the planning commission. It goes to the AO, and if she refers it to ZA or refers it to.
Well, that's not the way the law is. The
Well,
law is
but
that the
she
planning commission
automatically
doesn't.
came to us.
she did come to the bail board?
Yes, because it's not in her purview to be able to do 3.
No, we asked her to be here though.
No, but she had to present it to us because she's not allowed to do more than 2 subdivision. more than
Okay,
2
so
lots.
she knew that.
So she came to us, she did the right thing
Okay.
with that. But my question is that question fine? And I've asked the AO about that and not really got a response. But I just want to bring it, so before more people, like if they're seeing what I'm seeing, I feel like those questions need to be answered. Or if not, this form is faulty. If to subdivide into 3 lots, you don't need to answer those questions, then they shouldn't get this form. This is confusing. Am I making sense?
Possibly, but if, did they go ahead with the 3 division?
We wouldn't have a choice, yes. We were told we had no choice on it.
But the bylaw says they have to
You
come
would
to the
go.
board.
The planning board.
The board was going out?
yes,
Yes.
IVAO.
You let that go, Dave?
No, I started fine, but I had a stroke, I had to stop.
Yeah, that was the day.
See, right here, I think I did.
So let me get this straight, the zoning bylaw says if it's 3 subdivision, it's gotta come to the planning
Which
commission.
it did.
In this case, it was 3.
No.
She came here and said, you guys we don't have a say.
Pretty much.
Okay, so she
I
was out of
felt
line.
like, I felt like there was something about, they did the first division with like, primary buildings, and then there was like
An
an
accessory.
accessory building, and
And
that
they
felt
changed-
like a loophole for what was essentially we're putting 3
More-
dwellings on
Correct.
this land. And that's the loophole we have to watch out for, because if there's a primary way that it's being described, that then essentially is gonna become
Well, that's-
something
The
entirely
accessory
different.
dwelling is a whole
Yeah.
different ball of wax.
Right, the old, I'm not even gonna say it, but everybody knows where the accessory building was placed down the road here, and now there's a tiny home on that house. There's
Yes,
supposedly, I mean, there's so many
the
loopholes.
river right
that-
there.
Like, it's aggravating, we've had this discussion.
Well, and that's the
It's-
reason why
it's-
we have
Yeah.
rules and laws,
Right.
bylaws in
But
place.
there's nothing, there's nobody that is given the.
Oh, there is no.
So
You
maybe
know,
it's
it's-
also a conversation,
Huh?
You're saying, right, the lane and in that area?
Across the street.
Right, with the little fence and every,
My old house,
No.
yeah, I agree with you on that.
yeah,
my old house.
You can't do anything about the corner of the lane, like that's
exactly.
I
past,
mean, that was all done through the state, everything, that one was,
it still should have been allowed.
well, she
So
went through the
It should have
state,
never gone through the zoning board, or the zoning administrator should have never even,
but she did it with
It
the
wasn't
overlay
her.
officer.
it wasn't
It
her.
wasn't him and it wasn't Deborah, it was the other one there.
Right, and so,
And-
First and foremost, like how you can't even have an outhouse in the village. You're not supposed to have that, you just take that first, and then
Right,
you put a building on that property, like,
You gotta remember something though, Pete, there's a lot of things that we're not gonna have any control over, because if somebody's living in the village now under certain circumstances, and now it's a village, they're grandfathered.
right.
So,
Well, my whole point was is that they bought, the land sat vacant forever, okay, and they just came in and said, hey, I wanna put a,
so
whatever.
So
they're
I was
calling it,
asked-
an Airbnb or whatever, and.
there was a brief time when there was no AO here, and they asked me if I would take over until I didn't. And so that was one of the projects I had, that one, and also across the street from that, on Main Road. And I took care of both of them. This one here, it had already been taken care of. I mean, it was like, I'm not gonna reverse something that's been done, so,
Yeah, we're past that, like I said, that's.
yeah, because that's a lawsuit for the town.
Yeah, it just.
But
is
as
what it
this is right here, if this is already beyond our scope already, then I think,
If it's been approved, was it approved?
Yes.
Okay, so then we're just looking at moving forward.
Well, I just wanna look at this form though, unless.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
Hung up on
going
this.
forward
so
with
let's
the.
bring her in and ask her about it.
I mean, I
And
feel like,
that way the board has, I mean,
So maybe we just need to, maybe everything's in place, we just need to make sure the AO understands the procedure.
So I have
It's in our handbook.
a question for you. In your bylaws, you have like permitted uses and then like conditional uses and other things. You might wanna look and see if that subdivision is under the section of permitted uses. And maybe it shouldn't be there, but if it
It's
is,
not.
that gives her the ability to,
I don't think that it is.
I've never seen anything where we could subdivide a
Right.
subdivision.
But I also believe
It
that,
doesn't say it.
if I'm,
that's what I
correct me
mean,
if
it
I'm
might
wrong,
be kinda wrong.
if
the way it's
anything is
worded.
in conditional use, it has to be sent to the ZBA.
Right.
Am I correct?
Yeah, I guess I would wanna look and
Yes.
see where that little subdivision thing you're looking at falls.
I
Yeah.
couldn't find anything about subdivisions within subdivisions.
I saw your email, I looked too, and I said all along that I didn't think that you were able to do it, that the state, because Act 250 was involved with a lot of patent subdivisions. You just don't go in and subdivide a subdivision.
Any subdivision now is too
Right.
back to there.
But conditional uses doesn't list anything about subdivisions that I care about.
But it also, but conditional use, she can't sign, approve a permit under conditional use
Right.
without the
Right,
authority of the
CCA.
ZBA.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So in closing, I feel like if number 5 on here is, and I think it should apply where we're doing larger subdivisions, it needs to be more clear, clarified, and not us told just to ignore it. So I did feel comfortable with just ignore, don't look at this information that you've now seen, you know,
No, I
with
see-
the
I see what you're saying,
overshadowing,
and
that's
you're
why I said it
absolutely right.
overlapped, it was the overshadowing that we could see, thanks to
Well, we were
Ricky's.
told we weren't supposed to have it.
Right, and to disregard it, that didn't feel comfortable,
Yeah.
but I mean,
I would-
Agreed.
So are you're looking to amend this?
amend it or
Better
have
recommend.
people follow it, either follow it all the way
Well, they're just,
through.
we could probably put an amendment in specific to the supplement, if you
Yeah.
want, which has, which within would deal with right-of-ways, the roads.
I mean, specifically, I feel like from what I read here, we should have been consulted on the right of way, and we weren't told, no, that was taken care of. And so I let it go, but it's bothered me since then, that
But
it,
I'm looking at number 5 and I don't even see where it mentions subdivision.
no, it doesn't. But this is the form that the people who did the subdivision filled out, and they
Okay,
didn't answer number 5.
okay.
But then they shouldn't either get this
Single
form.
line to Lori. This form,
Yep,
am I correct in saying that she designed? Because this wasn't available when I was here.
she was supposed to have designed it, I think for the most part Nancy tried to implement everything that was brought up and discussed and Deb okayed it.
So this is not something that the planning commission had any plan on, or the,
And it's kind of a
Or
generic
the
form
board.
that really doesn't fit all,
Right, it doesn't fit every situation.
so.
yeah.
And I feel like it was sort of a survey of other towns' permit
Yeah,
forms,
they
is how
surveyed
they
other,
cobbled it
yeah.
together, sort of Frankenstein.
So this wasn't ever okayed or designed by the planning commission or okayed by the select board?
So
It
could
was
we,
okayed by select board and okayed by the zoning, but not planning, zoning administrator.
can we request her to create a new one?
Yeah. Not create a new one, but at least amend it.
Yeah,
We can amend it.
how we want it to
What
be
we want
different.
it to be first.
Yeah.
I think if we amend it, apply with the select
That's
board.
what somebody saw.
Yeah, we do the bylaws, we write the
Right, right.
bylaws. We write the laws of the select, and we send everything to the select board. Of course, they have their input and everything, but they sign off. And you heard Mike tonight. I haven't read everything, but I sign, because they rely on us.
So what did you have, Jim,
What?
when you were, as far as this was concerned, because you said this wasn't available to you?
No,
So what did you utilize?
the first page.
Oh,
Oh,
just this?
the first page, and if I was into this, I would come to the board and say, we have a plot plan, I need a, and I did that once. I need a plan, you guys have your input. They had their input, I put it on another sheet, typed it up, good to go.
So we
It
should,
never went through, they never did it.
So then we in return should request, give her some ideas to switch the form and request her to switch the form. So give her what we want for either amendment or in addition to the form and say we would request another form.
I think we need to decide what situation, what information we're requiring first to create the form. You know,
Yeah.
like Mara was saying, it's, if indeed to do a 3-lot subdivision, what do we really need to know as a planning commission before we okay that?
I mean, she's got a form that
Covers
will
everything.
assist
Yes,
in everything that we need.
but then not, if the
But there's
permit,
certain little things in here that should have been through the eyes of people who know the laws and that's gonna approve it. Better yet, the one that's going to be, the people who are gonna be responsible for the lawsuits, you know, the select board, period. And the planning commission, if we write it.
I think, this situation where,
I know you hate me, but
where we have this going on, we should be contacting the town lawyer. At minimum, the lawyer, the VLCT, which is free for us because we're members.
so he said VLCT too, and you're wondering what that is. That is, correct me if I'm wrong,
Not League of City.
Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
Yeah.
so there are a whole bunch of lawyers throughout the state of Vermont that specialize in various professions that we, are disciplines, that we, as the planning commission, there's actually a lawyer that we would talk to specifically. Lori, she would talk to a specific one for being a clerk, so on and so forth. Septic systems, anything.
When I was chair of the select board 25, 30 years ago, I was on the phone every day with them. I drove them nuts. They wanted to give me a job, but I had to make sure what I was doing was correct, and I didn't know. You know, I got thrust into the position, and so I spent a lot of time with the LCT.
it's a great resource. And
Yeah, they
get
were.
right back to you.
So much more, that Mark was attention, and I swear, that was such a pain, we're stamped.
So then in
Exactly.
return, can we request her to contact them?
As an officer, you can, so, you know, you're the vice chair here, you could talk to them
Okay.
on any one of them, septic systems,
Hey,
VLCT.
Gentlemen,
I'll-
they've opened it up, Jim, I think, any member, which is
Yes.
all of us, can go online, and the old day was telephone, now it's all online.
Right.
The more I look at this, the more I think about it, I don't think the issue is on the application, I think the issue is on the procedure. And that maybe that needs to go into the zoning bylaw. If we wanna be able to look at stuff, right? Then it's gotta be in, not in this, it needs to be in the bylaw,
It is in the bylaws.
that it comes back to us. If,
It does, but
If you
again,
look
It
at the
is in the
okay,
back,
bylaws.
then it's really then a moot issue.
Look on the back.
We just have to talk to the
To the
select board,
AO and,
the AO, and
right,
follow the procedure.
exactly.
if you look on the back of the form at the bottom, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 people who should be getting a copy of it.
Yeah.
Select board should, planning commission should, it just
Yeah.
isn't happening.
but what if all these questions aren't filled out? That's sort of my question. Do all these questions on the bottom need to be filled out for every application?
If
Not
it's applicable,
always.
it
No, if
should.
I'm putting up an agricultural building.
Right, so maybe there should be a separate form for that. Do you know what I mean? That's what confused me when we were doing lot divisions. We got this paper and I'm looking for these answers. And I kind of had them from the Riggies, but,
Well, as a AO, I mean, the less is better, you know, so this form kind of covers everything we would do out in the field or, you know, to make sure that the permit is right. And Lori, just for off the record, I don't know who's printing around here anymore, but what's going on?
What?
You ain't yelling at anybody. No two-sided prints
Oh,
here.
yeah, you're right.
yeah, we're lucky we just don't go here at all.
But the information is in here,
So could
so
they
I
just
can't
write
say
NA?
that
I mean,
this is not appropriate.
Could she write NA then next to the parts that aren't applicable? I mean,
Yeah, if we were filling this out in the field,
the,
I mean,
getting this as.
if we
is-
don't, we're the only ones that see this. We'll see this, goes to law, and we'll come in here, we'll approve it, disapprove it, or if it needs to go to the ZBA, we'll deny it, send it, or refer it. And then what we do is we make a bunch of copies. Laurie will see it, if what she won't see it, she'll just throw it in her files. I'll throw it in my files. The listers clerk gets one, and we post a couple of them.
So when it comes to us,
But
how
it's,
am I
it
to
won't
know?
come to you unless they need a plot plan.
Right, and so when it did come to us, and these questions were unanswered, I wasn't sure if I needed to care about them.
Then it'd be up to us to ask the questions.
Right, and I was told not to consider that by the AOs.
With the rest of the board here?
Yeah.
I wasn't here, so.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Trust me.
Adam-
They would have been answered.
I wonder if part of this is getting our AO on board with what is essentially a concern that we're trying to address before it gets worse, based on what has happened already for some of our town members, which is that work with us, like, let's all work together in whatever form is needed, whether it needs to be a form, whether it needs to be a bylaw, because our concern is we are seeing the spaghetti strips getting overdeveloped. And so what, you know, when stuff like this comes, don't just go by what the state says. It's like Dan says, push back. Like, let's figure out a way to rein in that happening all over town. So we
We
need
just need
her
to
on
make-
board to work with us
Yeah, we need,
to figure out what are the things to put in place to keep that from happening all over the place.
Let's call her into the next meeting.
yeah, but I think in the
Alright,
future,
yeah.
no matter what, we need to table whatever comes in for a vote till we just need to collectively agree that if something comes before us, and like it did, that we need to like
Yeah.
really
Review
do
it.
some homework. And
Yes,
that takes a
review
month
it.
to go through it, that takes a month to go through.
Not have the AO tell us we
Yeah.
gotta sign it.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah, we
You know.
decided that day, we did it
Yeah.
that day, but we were told we had nothing to consider, so.
right.
We had to
but
sign
now-
something?
Isn't there a,
No, we had to tell you.
We had to approve it.
We had to prove it.
isn't there a, by law, isn't there a,
Why did we have to prove it?
Because she said at the state that there was nothing we could do. because
Exactly,
it-
the state requires a plot plan from, from.
No, no, she said we
board.
had to approve it because it was 3 lots.
It was 3
She
lots.
approved 2 of
A
one, so
subdivision.
That requires a plot plan
it
that
didn't
we
say that.
should have done and
Yeah.
signed, but that was then, and that now.
Yeah,
But
that's
the-
unfortunate water under the dam. How to
plot plan or
prevent that.
somebody's pipe dream?
Jim?
Right.
Jim, if I file a permit,
It probably should
isn't
be
there a
here.
law that
Right.
they have to have an answer within a certain amount of time?
Yes,
They
15
did
days.
it.
15 days, so when
Well,
something,
then we'll
Right,
just go
Lauren?
with 15 days.
15
I'll
days?
go full
15
15
days,
days, I don't
okay.
care, whatever, however
What's
long
that?
it takes us, if we gotta schedule another meeting, in
Okay,
between our
okay.
regular meeting, then we do that, but I just think that
Jim.
we need to not make a decision that night when something comes to us.
But wait,
We need to
if you're
just
saying it needed a
ready.
plot plan, we got a picture of 25 acres with a couple lines. It said, this is gonna be 2 acres, this is gonna be 3, and this is gonna be 17, or I'm making up the
38 or
numbers.
whatever the hell it is.
That's what we got, is that enough of a plot plan?
No.
No.
When you say plot plan, that's what all we were told to consider.
I mean, a copy from the engineer would have been perfect. That's a plan.
But they weren't building yet, so we were told not to
Right,
consider
that's
that.
what I think
That's
the
where
issue
the
is
catch
from,
was.
they just wanted to divide.
Yeah, they weren't immediately going.
They weren't talking about building, and that's where the AO said, you can't,
Can't
this
consider-
isn't for review because they're just subdividing the land.
Right.
Because it's coming down the road, we know it is.
We
Exactly.
didn't have anything to fight it.
And then will that just be up to the AO when they go to
Because
build
they're-
now?
Well, I brought it up and that's
So what was the point, what was the application for?
to divide
To divide the land.
the land.
For an because they were going to do an accessory building.
No.
Well,
Well, no,
Not,
just divide the land, period.
but I thought that the whole
That's
purpose.
down the road where
Oh,
it's
okay.
right,
But I also, just to throw it out there, why is the AO allowed to do 2, but it comes to us for 3? That made no sense to me, it just seems like an arbitrary cutoff point.
because if it's going to 3, it actually has to go to Act 250, which this board would advise it's gotta go Act 250, which now you're talking,
Well, we didn't say that,
huh?
we didn't say that.
Our bylaws allows us to have two residents, right?
right.
Yeah. On the property. and you don't have to subdivide. But the fact that
For
a
specific
subdivision,
reasons.
if you are applying for a subdivision, you're applying through the state, not through the town. The state goes through Act 250 for any subdivision. So if this is the version of the Act 250 subdivision of 3, then it's not valid.
And why did it come before
I
us?
think
don't,
it's
maybe
meant
I'm,
Act
well,
250.
maybe I'm just confused and
And
my
why were we making the
Alzheimer's kicked in
decision?
there for a minute.
And plus it was being subdivided in a Act 250 subdivision.
Right, it already is.
Yeah,
Is
it's,
it?
And that's been my question.
If it's in Act 250, it's completely out of the town's hands.
If there's no building up there, I don't understand why we have a building permit. What?
Right.
There are
No,
rules.
this was just to make it into 3 lots. This house up there now, but
Yes.
they wanted to subdivide further for their children.
Right.
But if
I'm-
it's a state
I'm-
issue, I don't know
I'll
why.
have to do some research and
Yeah.
check it out.
I'm really
And I can come back next meeting with my findings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to throw these people in.
My position is that there's no situation where in this town subdivision has been subdivided again.
I couldn't find anything on that.
I mean, there are certain size lots you can break off without even approaching the town or anything.
But we're talking about a subdivision. I'm saying
Yeah,
there's no
like I broke
historical
that,
data for subdividing a subdivision.
I broke up that sawmill property up there into 2 lots.
Yep.
I split it down, sold my brother 6 acres with the buildings that were left on it, and I kept the land above with 5, 6 acres.
I
And
understand.
that didn't even come to the town, that was just
Yeah.
lawyers and a deed.
Yeah,
Laurie, the building that was on that was put on that, was that a separate application?
so he had a building permit first and put a building on it first.
So
And then later.
am I correct, is this the one that on Azure that had a driveway that was right on the border?
Yes.
And then they had a couple of lots behind it that they were talking about subdividing
Yes.
and was told to go to the state to do it?
I don't know if they're.
I didn't know they put a house on it yet, but, yeah.
I don't know if they have. one.
All right.
But yeah, that's
If
the
you have any other
problem.
page
Think
for
about
next meeting, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, I'll find
how
some.
many lots are up there? There-
road?
Yeah, that patent lot, how many?
8, right? Did you say 8?
Oh, there's tons of them up there.
Yeah.
And
Both sides of the road, the low
Don't
side
forget,
and the upper side.
since the original subdivision, people have bought up other lots. There's probably, must have been at least
Well, just to give you an idea, I mean,
12, a good 10, 12, when they, it was 435 acres
Two
there.
different subdivisions.
right. Those subdivisions are all over town, there's one up behind me. And they were trying to build on it and
Where behind you?
it's right behind me. Nichols Road
Okay,
goes right up to,
Oak Town.
yeah,
yeah.
Taco Road. But the thing was, the person who put the subdivision in was supposed to put the road in and maintain it, which they never did. So all of a sudden, these people are building and saying, you want the town? And he said, the person who put the subdivision in, Patton, or whoever, needs to come and take care of the road before anything else can be done, so we stopped it. And I think with what's going on with these other lots, you're gonna find a similar situation, that if somebody takes the time to read the deeds, there's gonna be restrictions.
I don't know what happens when you say 3 houses are there, and then these people say sell, you know, all of a sudden they all decide to sell, and 3 individual, not family members, own the 3 houses, and the person up the end decides that somehow he's getting screwed, they're not maintaining the road, or,
Oh, it's a,
you know what I mean?
Well, there is a law, there is a state law about maintaining private roads. and
Yeah.
That should all be part of this process where there is an agreement, that should be part of the, we sign off on because there is a maintenance agreement, there is a right of way.
We
We
had
can't
a
just
thing
let
when
it
we
happen.
redid the zoning bylaws, David, we had in there where there has to be a spot for emergency
Right.
right,
vehicles to
And
turn
if you don't
around.
keep up the road,
But I think that should have come to the planning commission from what I'm reading.
That's part of the plot plan.
It is.
But it, so,
If it hits that category, then it's.
It didn't.
Let me ask you this, so it's subdivided, we know that that's water under the bridge, okay,
Yeah.
but no house is there yet. when they come through, they're gonna have to fill this out again, right?
And then
For
if
the
the
house.
gate owes,
Yeah.
So my point is though, is that it's still gonna come to us at that point, doesn't it?
No.
No.
only if it has
The
to.
subdivision has already been done, they're just, the people who buys the lots are just coming for a building permit.
Right, but it's just, it's the single guy, so all he's doing is, yeah, it'll go to Doug.
I guess,
Well, what about the road though, because the road was already technically part of that plot, the drawing, the
And it's part
three-row
of the
drawing that we got.
It's part of the right of way, it's part of their title, right? So. don't know if
I do have one question, you can put it under new business if you want. I mean, are we done with this topic?
I think so, I just, yeah, I guess I'll go over what I wanna go over under new business as well.
I just, I wanted to just, go ahead.
Well, is just, because we're stacking up things and they obviously can't all be talked about at the next meeting. So I want to prioritize what the board wants to address,
That's basically what
and so we don't overwhelm ourselves and have a 5-hour meeting. We've been getting out of here usually within an hour, so we're a little over now, but I mean, when we were doing the zoning bylaws, right, we were here for hours, often,
Yes.
and just grinding.
It started early.
grinding. 2 years ago, okay? So, quickly under new business, you'll all be getting a mailing.
Already did.
It already came in?
Yeah.
Okay, well, talk it up. We want people from other towns. We have free vendor tables. So if you know somebody that sells, it's gotta be agricultural, right? Anything agricultural, free vendor table, come in, have your wares. People get to know you, right? It could be honey, Jim does honey, right? I already told him. Maple syrup, anybody know the chemical? Do you do maple syrup too? Well, bring both.
Keep going.
People need to know what people have
That's your-
in the region.
Maybe with
I
those
wonder
posts,
if we should do a Facebook post
well,
saying.
so they have, so my question was, and I can't remember because honestly, I didn't read it because I already knew about it. I already knew about the in-depths of it. So, what does it say in there, free vendor tables?
Slightly. I think we need just like the
Separate.
very good voting thing that you did. I think we need something that just is so simple and direct, saying, Stamford folks, do you
Just
sell
the vendors.
eggs?
Just the vendors.
You know, just on the vendor
Yes.
thing, you know, come for
So
free.
anybody put it up.
Do
Let's
you
get it
sell
posted.
eggs? Do you sell
Huh?
honey? Do you
Put
sell
it up
maple
and let's get it
syrup? Do
posted.
you sell vegetables? Do you sell meats? I mean,
Okay.
Get something that can be put on the page and it's gonna go on at Stanford Informer and it's gonna be.
There's already one.
Well, right, it came through, that's why I asked it, honestly, I didn't read the whole thing.
I can do that, I can do the words, yeah, the words. I mean,
More
I
than
know
one of the
all,
same
I
thing
don't know.
combined?
But I can't remember what it actually said, so
What?
my question was.
Absolutely.
One and the same thing. Somebody wants to sell honey or maybe.
Does it
Sure,
say free
everybody,
vendor tables?
everybody, you know,
It
this
says,
one's
yeah.
closer to me, I like that one, you know, sure. I mean, bunches of people sell eggs,
I'm, if you're done talking about eggs and stuff, it's-
sorry.
No, don't.
Yeah, I suppose.
Under new business, I was hoping that there would be some interest here to kind of like go forward on looking. I've got this long-term thing that I've been doing for quite a few years, and that's developing or trying to learn about community solar or power, some power source for our community.
Yes.
As we all know, Stamford is becoming pretty elderly, and and a lot of fixed incomes here, and a lot of people hurt. And I would like to be able to spearhead with a group of people an idea that I've had for a long time, and that's a community solar system. Now, I was involved in the Tejan solar system that they have back there. That's a community solar system, but not for this community. That was a professionally, well, it was an organization out of Brattleboro that I met through developing my plan. And that was supposed to be my own personal solar system in my backyard. But we have a very unique piece of property that we don't want solar out there. We just want to see, we overlook Stamford, south to the Florida mountains, all the way down to the south. So we have some of you guys have been out that way, but y'all are welcome to come in and see the farm. And so I would like to go back and try to rekindle. Yes, Mr. Henderson has a solar system that was designed for my place. And he approached me and we talked and he did it at his place. I actually gave him the whole engineered process. So I would some way try to figure out, I approached the school department quite a few years ago at a school committee meeting and they literally blew me off. Literally. And I was angry for a while, but, and here we are looking for a new furnace for the school and the building, and this was part of that. I did some research on pellet furnaces for the building and other things that, renewable energy, and so I'm back to the solar now for trying to create a program where everybody in the community that wants to be involved in it buys into it. They own it.
That can be done?
Yeah,
Really?
absolutely.
I'd like to know more about it.
And the
I'm
electric
interested in that.
that it develops goes into the grid. And we designate it, we have our own administrative office. It's sort of like our current local,
So it's like we got one milk
cellular,
cow and we each get a
internet.
half a gallon every day. I get it.
I'm sorry?
Just for the-
We have a milk cow and we all get a half a
We
gallon.
all get it udder.
Absolutely.
No, I get it, so
You know what I mean?
it's
So-
metered coming out, and then there's 50 people,
Right?
and that goes into your meter, your meter,
Right.
your meter.
So
No,
for-
that's a brilliant idea.
For an amount of money up front, they would come in, they would set the whole, they'd engineer it, they'd set the whole thing up, put it on the grid. We would buy the electricity from them. So I wasn't 100% sure that that was the best way to do it because they gotta get a piece of the cake too. Justin built his own, Henderson.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my design, he built it. I gave it everything that he built. There's no reason why we can't figure out a way of doing it ourselves.
Where would you want to locate that?
Huh?
Where would you want to locate it?
Well,
The town has property.
the guy who'll be coming to the meeting, he's pretty much an expert on solar. He's giving a talk.
He's the guy from Stanford?
No, he's from Whiting.
Okay. So,
Is there a max
Oil.
and is there,
if you were to go, put a solar system on your grid, on a meter, you're only allowed, according to Green Mountain Power, you're only allowed 15 kW per meter. So we were gonna put 30 kW at a farm because we have 2 meters. We have a meter on the house and a meter on the barn / mother-in-law thing. Anyways. So we were gonna do a 30 kW system there, and that's exactly what Justin put in, that's the 30 kW system. He generates technically around, I think 17, he'll tell you 37, but he generates exactly about as much as we did. So the rest of it goes into the grid, and I do believe, don't quote me on this, but I think his mother-in-law is getting taken care of and still.
does it
So-
go in as credits?
Yeah, well, it used to, Pete, but now you would utilize as much as we could get. We would sell it all off if we could, if we do it ourselves. GMP would then kick back a check monthly to us.
Right.
So, could be
So you're
tax
paying-
credits.
So you're paying for it, but not really. So in terms of, so what you're saying.
We would have to raise money up front to purchase all the equipment,
And put it up and get.
design it ourselves, hire an electrician or somebody to do the work for us to put it up. That's doing it that way. And then the people who were involved in it would do it. Or we could have an administrator here collect the electric bills monthly. So It would be so, I think,
It's definitely something to talk about and kick
you know,
around.
this,
So what
people,
happens to all the
I
electricity that goes back to GMP?
Right
what's that?
What happens to all the electricity that goes back to
They cut you a
GMP?
check
We
every
have
3
to buy-
months, I think.
We have to buy it back.
No, you don't have to buy it back. What you generate is yours, is ours.
Subtracted right off from the
They
bill.
changed the law about 5 years ago. They used to give you credits. So
Right.
when I first started doing it, they would only give, if I got 100% electricity for my buildings, right, and I generated another, let's say, $100 or $150, I could designate that to Dave here in Stamford. Anybody on GMP, anywhere in the state, I can give you the credit, right? So I got 150 hours left. You know, I can give it to Pete or, you know, anybody.
Isn't that the way Massachusetts is working now?
I'm not sure what they were doing, when I was, they're different down there, they get, developers get paid by the kilowatt hour that they develop, so it's a whole different thing, and it's all commercialized down there, I don't know, Massachusetts is the one that you go down there and you see solar panels on top of everybody's houses. Those are all the ones that you walk, when you drive by, you know, you do this, because they're getting,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I'll save you $200 on your electric bill, but the lease for the
Yeah.
solar panels are $200.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to pay your electric bill
Yeah.
for 20 years.
Yeah. So
People
why
fell
not?
into that,
Yeah.
so many people fell into that, but anyways,
So what did you say the max was for the system? Because
it ain't, there's no max, when you're doing a commercial system like this,
residential,
15.
because it just sparked me, because I was about this close with Sunrun, and I called it quits.
Mm.
So, but they were gonna build me a 20 kilowatt system.
They wouldn't have been able to put it on your meter.
It was already changed. They paid for the pole change and my
Wow.
meter, and I backed out and
I
was
don't know
like,
how-
sorry, thanks double. But I mean, I just was curious.
Maybe
if
they
said
changed,
because-
maybe they changed it since I've done it.
And I'm glad that I backed out, but I'm definitely very interested in solar because I know it's coming.
Well, I mean,
State's gonna be
this is
like,
just
"Oh,
a
we
quick,
can't
I'm
use
sorry it took so
oil, we
long.
can't
No, it's a good topic, it's right in line with what we're doing at this
This is one of the reasons why I wanted to come onto the
resiliency fair.
planning commission.
Definitely give me
This is
some
what I wanna do.
information.
Get
I
it
would
going.
love to have some
Get it
information
going,
for the
it
board.
takes time.
All right,
Come to the fair, see if this guy,
yeah.
if he knows what he's talking
If
about.
anybody's got
I think
any
he does.
contacts in that field that are.
Yeah,
yeah,
'cause he's
send
got his
them my
little
way.
place up there in Whitingham, you know, all self-sufficient, plus he knows about the portable systems.
Yeah.
Right, which you just put panels out there, you juice up your generator, and then your generator's.
Yeah, we spend over $1,000, well, right around $1,000 a month on electricity.
Wow. So, also under new business, what do we wanna tackle the next meeting? We've got discussion about a bylaw change to exempt the town from zoning bylaws, we have,
I think we need to discuss that more for sure.
well, yeah, it's gotta get
That was
discussed.
some ideas next meeting.
Yeah.
Then we've got the, I think Lisa, you mentioned the 7.22 right-of-way thing.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
so
that just
draft
goes
on
in
that.
line with the form.
Okay,
So I guess an idea.
Well, one, we have the exempt, the municipalities for signs, I have that for number one,
Yeah.
that Mike
Okay.
asked about. So we should look at, I've looked into it several towns, because I thought mine was coming a few months ago. So I've already looked into what other towns have in their
Yeah.
bylaws, so I can
okay,
do what merge that.
um,
Second one was, looking at, a new draft for, the overshadowing and potentially
okay,
revising the bylaw. And that's what I have, just wanted to.
I think that'd be enough for the next meeting.
Can we talk about the next meeting? I know Kurt emailed, at least the old board, that he can't make the first Monday. I think Kurt's an asset to us. So
Yeah.
if
I do.
we wanna switch maybe to the
Is
second Monday of the month.
Okay, so it's not just every Monday, it's
He
just,
has another commitment, something, other board he's on right now, so.
right, but it's not like the second or third or
That was
fourth
just the
Monday,
first,
it's just,
he's the
okay.
first Monday of the
Yeah,
month.
I'm good
he's
with
taking
that.
up.
I'm fine with that.
Second Monday of the month, raise of hands, I guess.
What's that? Huh?
Second Monday?
Instead of the first Monday of the month, it'd be the second Monday of the month.
Can everyone do that?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
next.
Oh, so it's just a
so
monthly
next-
meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, so next meeting would be the 11th of November.
11? We're going to be 7 o'clock.
Please.
7 good for you?
What
Yeah.
happened to the twice a week?
We're not ready to buy
What
those.
have to redo the town plan?
Yeah.
I'll go with what everybody wants for timing. My opinion is this is a great time for me personally, so I'm selfish. But it's just because I put the toddler to bed already and I can get out.
Fair.
Get dinner.
Seven's good for me.
Anybody else who has opinions?
Fair.
I'm open.
Last question is, do we have a current set of rules for this committee?
Yeah.
Yes.
Did she give you the town plan?
I
Did
don't
she
think
give
he
it?
needs it. I gave them the bylaws.
Oh,
They said
I gave the
yeah.
bylaws.
Yeah.
What are you looking for again?
The committee rules, do you have committee
Oh,
rules?
Not really, we have a chair, we have a vice chair, and we have a secretary.
So you didn't adopt any committee rules, so, okay.
We kinda
So-
try to keep people from
Self-regulate.
talking too long.
All right, okay.
Do you have a rule you want?
Don't look at me! I guess you all talking tonight.
What are you hitting at, Jim?
Like what
No,
kind of-
no, it's just every committee that I've ever been on, and when it annually, Dave
Yeah.
and Sheila will probably tell you, annually, they talk, the first thing at every meeting, select board does the same thing. What are the rules? What are the rules, you know?
Well, generally, I mean, other than
Just
select
a
board.
common civilized manner, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, no, we don't like civilized.
Okay, I'm good with it. I'm good with it.
We try
I
to
didn't know
like,
we had some.
the chair basically, like, in the select board meeting, Nancy's supposed to do that, you're supposed to keep the order, right? Like, so the visitors, right, and then people start raising their hands, right? And then the chair is supposed to be like, okay, your hand was up first, yours was up second, yours was up third, you know what I mean? Just try to keep an order so that it doesn't just go like,
Gotcha.
Control.
yeah. And if I'm not here at a meeting, he's in command.
Send your prints.
Yeah.
And if he and I don't show up, I guess it goes to the secretary. Lisa?
That's right.
Oh.
I don't know, the Secretary of State and the government, right, doesn't she fall in line?
So you're the overshadow? Okay.
Well, it was a good meeting, I make a motion to
I
adjourn.
had some
Oh.
old business.
Oh.
I'm nothing against the three of you, okay?
Which
But
three?
we did have somebody that had been on the planning board, and she got off because she was to do with the other parts of the town, and she couldn't be only sitting here, okay?
Who was
She
that?
did put in a letter to come on here, just before we started debating on what way we were gonna go.
What?
I
We don't
think she
debate
should have
which way we're
been
gonna go.
notified.
Was that
I
prior?
sat with Jen and she did not express any interest. I told her there was an opening on the board and she said that she
So
was,
Jen said that,
I did inform
well,
her.
I just felt that, you know.
Yeah, I did
she got
inform her there was an
under-
opening first.
she's-
Yeah, and she wouldn't send that to us, she'd send it to the select board, they're the ones who
Yeah.
appoint the
Right.
board.
Was that the woman that was interested, right?
There's
when
a
I was
lot
coming
of
on?
She was on the board.
Yeah.
She was
She
on,
got-
did you
Who?
go on to the,
Jen.
Jen Hughes?
Because she
She
was
went on
before
to a
me.
different.
She's
board.
not a voting member.
Yeah, that's what I'm
anyway.
saying, like, when I was voted in.
But she could
I
have come
think
on
she
as a voting member
wrote it.
now.
Yeah.
So,
She
She
was
could have come on now as a
ex-officio,
voting member, but she didn't want to put a
Oh.
letter in this time, so
was
that's
the
why
forgot.
she's here.
energy.
And then the other question I have is, I thought you wanted only 7 people. That's how we got down to 7
Ask
people.
Kurt.
That's the select board.
Ask
the
Kurt.
select board sets
Yeah.
this up.
4 members to the 7-member board is recognized as this 9-member board with 2 vacants. And Jen Hen was resigned from the emergency coordinator, so she couldn't continue acting serve in the planning commission. Then there was another part, Pam Tork, to accept the recommendation of planning commission and reduce it to members to a 7-member board, second by Marie Whitney, 3 in favor, and all that. Then there was down through, there was some more. I had no, you guys are welcome. Have fun.
No,
But I
but to
just-
Sheila's point, what happened is we were having trouble getting it
Right, so Aaron said.
Well, that was then, this is now, are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
The motion.
Wait, he motioned,
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
What is your phone? I wanna come see it.
to them. It's legitimate. It's not-
I want to go.
It's,